You know, a wise man once said, you can't keep a good guy down. So Curse of Chucky tells the story of a seemingly random family in a somewhat haunted looking house that gets a mysterious package delivered that holds a good guy doll. And as members of this family start to drop dead in mysterious and sinister ways, everybody starts to wonder who is the murderer and is this doll in fact alive? Alright people, we are here, the tail end of my Child's Play review series, and we are at Curse of Chucky, the first direct-to-video, direct-to-VOD installment of this franchise, which everybody thought was going to be a gigantic shit bomb that was going to cement the death of this franchise forever, but to many people's surprise, especially my own, it's actually pretty good. In fact, for a lot of people, this competes with their top 1 or 2 of the Child's Play franchise as the best that this franchise has to offer in Curse of Chucky, which is a huge feat for a movie that should, for all intents and purposes, have never existed because of how horrible Seed was. Seed is so bad, that should have killed this franchise forever. But luckily, horror fans and Don Mancini would not let that happen. They brought the budget of the movie down a little bit, took it direct to VOD, direct to Netflix and all that good shit, and gave us a back to basics, back to its roots Child's Play film. This one abandons all of the goofiness, all of the comedy, and the weird shit that Mancini tried to inject into Seed of Chucky in favor of a much more straightforward, horror-focused approach, which fans were screaming for. And at least for me personally, this movie, the entire movie really, feels like one big apology for Seed of Chucky. Even though Don Mancini is one stubborn son of a bitch and will not admit that that movie sucks, I'm sorry for the fans of it, but it's terrible, at least in this man's opinion. But this movie does feel like an apology to fans for going that direction and saying, hey, here's more of what you love. And when I was following the production of this movie, when I heard it was going direct to VOD, when I heard Don Mancini was coming back, it was just one red flag after red flag after red flag that this was going to be just as bad, if not worse, than Seed of Chucky. Okay, we're taking it out of the theaters and bringing it VOD. That's usually the staple of death for a franchise. Oh, we're gonna get the same guy who directed that horrible Seed of Chucky movie and let him direct this one. Oh, fuck. But luckily, all the decisions they made with the back to basics approach led this to be a much better film than Seed of Chucky. And honestly, I'll give Don Mancini some credit. I think that his directing style in this movie, for the most part, there are some things that bother me about it I'll get into later, does really effectively capture a lot of that horror back to basics elements that he was going for, especially a lot of elements from that first Child's Play. You know, Chucky's kind of in the shadows for most of this movie. It's a lot of a mystery. There's some POV shots and everything like that classic Child's Play whodunit storyline. And even though we know it's Chucky, it's an interesting element to bring back, and it is a really refreshing direction to take this franchise. Really, one of the best things about this movie is the addition of Fiona Dourif, who is the daughter of Brad Dourif, the guy who has voiced Chucky since the beginning, which was honestly another red flag for me. Totally unfair on my part, I admit that fully, because I've never seen this woman act, but all I saw was, oh, they're gonna bring in Brad Dourif's daughter just because that's Brad Dourif's daughter. And luckily, she surprised the hell out of me because she is the best actress in this movie, and she's the best character in this movie.
You wanna play, motherfucker? Let's play.
I also thought Brennan Elliott as Ian was a pretty good character too. I enjoyed the things that they did with his character. I didn't mind seeing him on screen. He's not nearly as good as Fiona Dourif, but as far as the surrounding family, he's probably the one that I latched onto the most and I like the most. And of course, you gotta talk about Brad Dourif. He's the heart and soul of this franchise. He is the one who brings Chucky to life time and time again. He is the thing that you go to see these movies to see and to hear, is his voice, him bringing that doll to life. And he's one of the better parts of this movie. I don't think that his lines are as well written as some of the best installments of this franchise, so it's not quite as iconic as a performance in this, but his return is absolutely welcome. He brings the doll to life just as good as he's ever done. He does have some good lines, but they're just not quite on par with like Child's Play 2 or Bride of Chucky in my opinion. But Brad Dourif, you're the fucking man as always. And I really liked how he even got to bring back Charles Lee Ray, a character that we have not seen since the first opening scene of the original Child's Play movie. That was a really cool big surprise for Child's Play fans.
Why would you want to destroy this family.
You destroyed my family.
No. I told you. I've always had a thing for family.
I thought it brought a nice change of pace in the movie and the franchise to go back to the origins of Charles Lee Ray and show a little bit more of that character, flesh him out a little bit more, show how even more twisted he is than we realized from the beginning. And I love the fact that a movie, whenever it can succeed in going back to the beginning, changing some things or adding some things that we never realized without detracting or fucking up some of the other movies, and they definitely do that in Curse of Chucky. All it does is add to how sinister of a character Charles Lee Ray is. And I also like all of the kills that Chucky gets in this movie. I think that there's some of the better kills that we've seen in the franchise. There's definitely some inventive stuff going on. It competes with Seed of Chucky, at least until the release of Cult of Chucky, as the goriest of this franchise with some of the kills. So that's a welcome addition as well. Put some blood and gore in there because Chucky's not fucking around this time, baby. As far as some of the technical aspects, one of the things that I've harped on a little bit in this franchise review series is that Child's Play has always been missing a signature score. Chucky doesn't really have a score like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. His scores always change, and honestly, they're usually kind of bland with the exception of Child's Play 2. And even though the score in this movie I don't think is as good as Child's Play 2's, it does have a good little signature sound to it. It's very creepy and toy-like, which fits the themes of the movie. It even carries through to Cult of Chucky, so maybe this is the score going forward throughout this franchise for however long it goes until it gets rebooted or canceled. And I enjoy that the fact that they had a score that they liked, that they put some time into, and that they stuck with for this movie, because that's something that honestly Chucky has always needed. I think the setting of this movie is a huge positive as well. It's a very tight, confined movie. It takes place all in one location in this creepy haunted house. It has a very Hitchcockian feel to it, so not only does it feel cool and fresh to keep Chucky contained, but the look of the house, the cinematography of the house, the set design, all of that adds to kind of this haunted house Chucky movie, which is a nice fresh take, a fresh tone, and a fresh look for this franchise. So that was a pretty cool addition as well. And my final positive for Curse of Chucky, which I'm not going to get in detail with because it is a big spoiler, the post-credit scene for this movie is fucking beautiful. It is awesome. It is a huge love letter to us longtime devoted Chucky fans. It is exactly what you want to see to wrap up a movie like this and to tease you about what's to come. Even though I don't love what they've done after this movie, hopefully they'll bring it back around again, but the way this movie ends, the way that it bookends itself with that post-credit scene is one gigantic wet kiss from Don Mancini to his fans. It's just like Don Mancini saying, "Oh yeah, baby, you know who loves you, come here." Ah. But the movie's not perfect. There is quite a few things in this movie that bug the shit out of me when I watch it. They keep me from loving it on the level that a lot of people love this movie, putting it in their top 3, top 2, or top of the franchise. And I'm going to get into all that right now. And a forewarning for those of you that got annoyed in my Cult of Chucky review of how much harping I did on lore and rule breaking, there's some more of that in here, so just a little bit of a warning. I'm gonna rant a bit. Even though the throwback and the homage to the original Child's Play movie, the tones, the mysterious element of it, the whodunit element of it is a very welcome throwback, I feel like they drag it on way too far because Chucky doesn't even show up in this movie in full-on Chucky form until it's about halfway through the runtime. And I'm sorry, that is why Child's Play 2 was so awesome, because after you know Chucky's the killer, after we've been introduced to him, you want to see Chucky, you want to get to that shit. So they should have fast-forwarded all that mysterious element and got done with that like maybe the first 20 minutes or the first act of this movie at least, and then unleash Chucky the way that we want to see him unleashed. But it just drags on way too fucking long. And you'll also notice that while this movie took a dip into the VOD venture, it also took a dip into the C and D list acting venture, because aside from Fiona Dourif, aside from Ian for the most part, aside from the great voice acting as always by Brad Dourif, the acting in this movie is horrendous. You get the little girl Alice, who is a terrible child actor. She puts Alex Vincent on a pedestal where he looks like a fucking Oscar nominee compared to what she does.
What about Chucky?
He says there is no God.
Who said that?
Chucky did. He said that life's a bitch and then you die bleeding like a stuck pig.
Alice.
You get a lot of really weird, strange performances from the surrounding family, from a priest who comes in, especially the sister Barb. Not only is she a bad actress, but her character sucks. She is one of the most annoying fucking people. She's somebody that you cannot wait to die, And luckily, maybe that was intentional because her death scene is my favorite of this movie. It's one of my favorite scenes, and I'll be talking about that here in a little bit. Death to Barb. But the biggest thing that bugs the shit out of me about this movie is the design for Chucky, the design for the good guy doll. Until they reveal the scars in the final act of the movie, he looks so weird, odd, and honestly just bad. I don't know how you can make his design so strange. It's so jarring for a longtime Child's Play fan to see 4 movies where he looks exactly the same. 5 movies, in fact, where he looks damn near exactly the same. And then you get to Curse of Chucky and his design is just so different. It looks a little bit better and a little bit closer whenever the scars are revealed, but it still looks a little bit off. But I know they dropped their budget. I just don't see how you can drop the budget for making Chucky look like Chucky, because it just looks bad. And I know I'm gonna get some people defending it, saying that it's part of the story because he had plaster and shit on his face. He was covering the scars, and that's what made his face look a little bit different. But no, that to me, that's just a cheap kind of way to throw away that criticism and say that it doesn't exist when it does in fact exist. The doll just does not look good. They may have wrote that into the story to justify it, but it doesn't change the fact that the doll looks bad. Not to mention that they also throw some CGI shots into this because they didn't have quite the budget to do a lot of the animatronic work they did in the first 5 movies. And even though it's not terrible CGI, it's very jarring because this movie is known for its animatronic work. And when you see a digital Chucky walking around, it looks so stiff and animated that it takes you out of the movie. But the part that I warned you about, my harping, my ranting, there is some lore and some rule breaking that they do that Don Mancini just loves to do in his writing for some reason. Even though he's the one who's written every one of these fucking movies, he loves to break his own rules. And he does it here in Curse of Chucky too. Not nearly as egregious in Cult of Chucky, but it still bugged the piss out of me. Can someone please explain to me how Chucky is full of feathers and stuffing in this movie and not blood and organs and bone like the rules of this franchise has clearly fucking established for the 5 movies preceding this one? Explain that to me, because it makes no sense and it pisses me off whenever I see feathers fly out of Chucky when he gets a knife in his back by Nika, or when she knocks his head off and it's just a plastic head that rolls around and fucking feathers come out of that. That does not fly with me. He's supposed to bleed. He's supposed to have some fucking human elements once he transpires into this doll, once he is actually possessing this doll. The longer he's in it, the more human he becomes. And even if he possessed this doll minutes before he stuffed himself in that FedEx box and shipped himself to Nika's house and went through the events of this movie into the 3rd act, he still would have had human elements and blood and organs by that time, according to the first fucking movie that this is paying homage to. Aside from that, small spoiler alert, there's a scene that's after the ending. It's kind of the pre-post-credit scene, if that's even a fucking term. But the scene whenever Chucky is getting ready to possess Alice, the little girl, Nika's niece, that's again a big fuck you to the lore of this franchise, which I guess was a warning sign for what they were going to do in Cult of Chucky. But Chucky is not able to possess anybody that is not the first person that he revealed his true identity to, which is Andy Barclay. And they established in 4 and 5 that he can do whatever with the heart of Dumbala, which he does not have in this movie. So how is he going to possess Nika? That makes no sense to me. And that scene also gets kind of negated by the post-credit scene that I think is so awesome, which immediately comes after that scene. But whatever. Maybe they'll explain it in the 9th Chucky movie. We'll see. But before I give my rating, guys, let me tell you what my favorite one-liner by Chucky is in Curse of Chucky, and it's the scene when he kills Barb. Not only is it great because Barb sucks, and I loved seeing her get her fucking face split open. That's gonna get me demonetized. But it's an awesome one-liner. It's an awesome kill, and it's an awesome one-liner that just totally reminds you why you love Chucky, the evil little bastard that he is. He looks Barb right in her stupid face, and he says,
You have your mother's eyes. And they were always too fucking close together!
Chucky, that's why I love you, you little sadistic bastard. But all in all, guys, even though I have a lot of strong negatives with this movie that really bug me every single time that I watch it and probably will never go away, overall, I still enjoy this movie quite a bit. I think it's a very worthy addition to this franchise. It's a gigantic leap forward from the shit pile that was Seed of Chucky. Just Some bad acting, some lore meddling, but there is a lot of good technical aspects. There's some good direction by Don Mancini. Not great direction, but good direction. Some good interesting elements, some good throwbacks, some good lines by Chucky, some good kills. I think it's an enjoyable addition to this franchise. If you like this franchise, you will like this movie most likely. So if you're a fan of Chucky and you want to see something to get the fuck out of your mind, you want to throw back to that old classic straightforward horror feels, you're gonna get it in Curse of Chucky. So sit down, relax at home, and check it out on Netflix. So what do you guys think of Curse of Chucky? Are you on the end of the camp with me and think that the lore meddling and the rule breaking is just fucking egregious, even though all the things in this movie are awesome, that does hold it back for you a bit? Or are you part of the camp that loves this movie, thinks it's among the best of the franchise, possibly even your favorite one? There's a ton of people on that side of the camp. Put your vote down below on what side of that camp you are on. What's your favorite Chucky movie? Put that down below too. Put all of that down in the comment section, guys, and we will talk about it. Hit that like button, hit that share button, and if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscriber button too. And if you want to check out some of my social media links, guys, I got links for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down below, as well as the link to my Patreon page, which is a great way to support this channel, help it grow, and also get some awesome exclusive content and exclusive privileges for patron eyes only. So check all that out, guys. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.